All right, so we are at 9:32. We'll go ahead and get started today. We're so happy to have everyone joining live and for a great discussion about wellness and the benefits it can have not only on employee engagement, but other long-time ROI that you're focused on for your company. As a quick overview of our host, I'm Morgan, I'm with Blueboard, and why we care about wellness specifically at Blueboard is because we offer employers the opportunity to really reward and recognize their team in a meaningful way, whether it's for programs like anniversaries, employee referral incentives, or wellness programs, really helping people to feel valued and seen as they exceed and meet those goals for a healthier lifestyle. So what that looks like is a platform that offers a menu of experiences, whether it's doing something like trying aerial yoga, surf lessons, or really just reconnecting through quality time with the family. It's a great way to motivate people toward those goals, and we'll be having a deeper conversation later on around intrinsic and extrinsic motivators and how you can think about structuring your program. So that's Blueboard for those of you who are new. And then also we're happy to be partnering today with ADURO. Carolyn is here today. She's going to be walking through some awesome notes around the wellness economy and the state of wellness. And I'll hand it over quickly to Carolyn to give you a quick overview of ADURO.
Thanks, Morgan. Hi, everybody. My name is Carolyn Thayer-Azoff, and I am the Director of Client Experience at ADURO. For those of you who may be unfamiliar with ADURO, simply put, we're in the business of helping people be great at anything. Our commitment is to help employees define their wellness goals and make small, transformative choices that unleash the possibility to achieve them. What makes us different is that our solution is built on a native experience that combines human connection with personalized digital engagement. This approach of human-centered design with digital engagement is founded on the belief that anyone can be great at anything and that any single choice has the power to change a life. So before we get started, we have the URL here. If you want to dig more, we'd love to chat, and I look forward to the discussion today.
Great, thank you, Carolyn. We'll jump into some quick housekeeping just before we get started with everything else, just promoting some upcoming events. We have another webinar coming up. Actually, we're partnering with hired.com, which will be great. It's all about employer branding. That's going to be coming up on March 20th, and you can actually go ahead and RSVP for that event at the top portion of the page at blueboard.com/resources. For those of you who are attending Conference Board Annual Health and Wellness Conference, ADURO team will be there. You can maybe meet Carolyn in live, for example. That'll be in San Diego coming up in a few weeks, and then in New York in April. And lastly, a cool plug for Blueboard, we're hiring our first head of people, and we're just now starting to go through the interview process. If you are passionate about working at an early stage, high growth startup and really want to bring best practices and innovate in the way that you approach your people strategy, we'd love to hear from you. You can find the job posting at the bit.ly link on the screen. And just for ongoing resources and content, events, and things like that, we have a great destination at blueboard.com/resources, where we house all of our latest content, ebooks, upcoming webinars, and same for ADURO. You can visit adurolife.com/resources for ongoing content and learning in the wellness space. So to quickly introduce our roundtable today, my name's Morgan. I'm our Director of Marketing here at Blueboard, and a big part of our culture committee, focusing on our own wellness initiatives as well. You met Carolyn just a second ago, but Carolyn is the Director of Client Experience at ADURO. We're also welcoming a few bright minds and your colleagues in the practitioner space. Amanda Delaney, who leads employee experience at Blend, is joining us. Welcome, Amanda. And lastly, we have Debbie Consinetti, who's a manager of employee wellness at Motion Picture Television Fund, which is a really cool initiative where she's not only leading internal branding and wellness, but also thinking about how they serve wellness for their community of entertainers in the LA area. Welcome, Debbie.
Thank you. Hi, everyone.
Great. So a quick agenda. What are we going to talk through today? First and foremost, Carolyn's going to take us through the state of the wellness economy. So why is wellness something that we need to focus on? Why is it such a hot topic? And why is it something that's now an expectation of your workforce, both in and outside of the office? From there, though, what is the benefit of investing in employee wellness? How can you build a business case? How can you really see the ROI from your return or your focus in that area? And then we'll be moving into best practices from Amanda and Debbie, who will be speaking to their own programs, how they brought them to life, what they've learned, what hasn't really worked so well, that you might be able to copy for your own efforts as well. From that, we'll move into a full live Q&A, but because it's a roundtable, we're going to be handling things a little bit different today. We got a slew of great questions from you during the registration process. So after each section, after Carolyn speaks, for example, after Amanda speaks, and after Debbie speaks, we'll be taking a 2 to 3 question break where we'll be covering either some questions that came in from the registration process or ones that you share along the way. And we'll direct you to do that through 2 tools. Primarily, you can use the Q&A function, which is going to be in the black Zoom toolbar that you'll see across your screen. Simply click on Q&A. You can answer or ask questions there, or you can actually upvote other questions that you're interested in hearing from us. Or you can also use the chat, but we do prefer that the chat is more for urgent questions. For example, as Kathy was asking about phone lines and things like that, feel free to use the chat. For longer questions for the panelists, we request that you use the Q&A. We'll also be running a few polls throughout. You'll see those pop up on screen, and those are great ways for you to give us feedback about your program so we can make sure that the content is especially relevant for you. And also, as you leave the webinar today, you'll be presented with a post-experience or post-event survey. This is new for us at Blueboard. We're hoping to learn more about how you value the content, and we really appreciate your feedback taking that 3-question survey. And last but not least, we will be recording the session. So if you do have to drop off early, we'll be having all of the content available and shared by Thursday and a recap on our blog. And for those of you who are seeking the SHRM certification number, we will be having that at the end. You must be present to receive it. So that'll be shared as we wrap up at 10:30 today. So without further ado, I'd love to jump into our first poll, really to understand how you would describe your current well-being program. So I'm going to go ahead and launch that poll on screen. What you can share with is maybe that today you don't have a program yet and you're here to learn. You might have one that you're planning, or it might be early stage or established, or you might say, hey, it's been around forever and it's really time for a refresh. So help us understand what your current well-being program looks like today. It looks like a lot of us are here to learn or have something that was kind of newly launched, maybe similar to the program that Amanda's going to talk through with us. Great. We'll do about 5 more seconds, let a few more people get their votes in. Okay, so I'm going to close the poll and share that back with you. Our winner is that a lot of people are newly planning well-being. It is definitely a hot topic. It's something that's a newer trend that we're facing in the workforce. So most people are here to learn and soak up good information, which is great. The next biggest group is early stage. So programs that have launched maybe less than a year. So great opportunity to take away new ideas today and continue building your program out. Thank you so much, everybody. So on that note, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Carolyn. She's going to take us through the state of the wellness economy. Thank you, Carolyn.
Great, thanks, Morgan. And it's awesome to see such a strong attendance here. Thank you, everybody, again for joining. I'm going to start, as Morgan said, with a little bit higher level. What is the state of the wellness economy? And also, what are some key characteristics to a successful program? And I'm also very much looking forward to hearing from Amanda and Debbie on how they have, brought these things to life within their organizations. So I want to start with a question around, when you think of the term wellness, what images or topics come to mind for you? I imagine many may be thinking about an activity device, fitness tracker, a healthy meal, or maybe making sure that you have visited your primary care providers to check in for any concerning biomarkers. The reality, and what we're going to dig into a little bit here today, is that things have changed. Wellbeing is now a $4.2 trillion industry. We have whole categories and brands competing and differentiating within the wellbeing industry. Everything from airlines, hotels, and restaurants to well-being as a tourism sub-segment. I'm sure we can all think of ways how this has showed up just in our own day-to-day life. We have consumers making buying and career decisions on well-being, choosing to use their dollars to vote for sustainability and for personal health. So naturally, we find it quite amazing that there is no clear winner in corporate well-being, even after more than 30 years. With the explosion of technology and digital health that is all around us, the innovation and traction is just less than stellar. The challenge that we have in the HR space is, how do we offer an engaging program to employees that will not only capture their attention, but ultimately drive a positive company culture and positive lasting change? Next slide would be great. So with that being said, why should you care? It's no surprise that likely one of the reasons your CFO is supporting a wellness program as part of your benefit strategy is likely the potential for cost savings. Because of this, we partnered with Forrester Research, and they ran a total economic impact report on 2 of our customers and found very positive results. By integrating ADURO's human performance solution into their organizations, they saw cost savings in a number of categories here on the screen, including reduced medical and prescription claims, reduced program administration costs driven by productivity, reduced absenteeism, and retention. So, before we move on, if you want to hear more, dig into the details and the numbers within these, you're welcome to do that at the URL on the screen. But in summary, at the end of the 3-year assessment, our customers saw an overall 182% return on investment. So while cost savings is important to all of us, we at ADURO believe that a focus on the individual is equally, if not more, important. And that's why we wake up every day challenging forward-first organizations to shift their thinking about employee well-being, shifting it away from the archaic well-being program mindset to adopt our human performance methodology. We think it's very important, and have found it's important, to put employees at the center of their well-being program, allowing them to choose what area of life they want to focus on. And what's the result? Employees that they believe they can be great at anything. As we can see on the screen here, we surveyed 44,000 of our participants to understand how motivated they were to change something in their life, anything. 88% responded that they were strongly motivated or very strongly motivated to change something. And what we found most surprising in our results was that 52% answered that their motivation to change fell around something outside of health. So you can see from this slide here, a large focus of people's motivation and what they wanted to change was inside the element of money and prosperity, as well as growth and development. So the question that we ask is, why would any organization focus exclusively on health and exclude such a large portion of their population? When approaching a strategy behind an effective wellness program, it's important to decide where your focus really is. You can provide a company-focused program where activities are related to managing health by requiring specific activities tied to health risk and motivating those required activities by providing extrinsic rewards. A prime example of this that we see a lot is offering employees premium medical reduction for completing a wellness visit to their healthcare provider. Alternatively, you can build a strategy around a people-focused program. The activities are more geared towards individual goals, giving them tools to meet these goals, and providing appropriate motivation to create change, ultimately tying into their own intrinsic motivation to act, which is where we see that sustained change happening. So before we dive into a few characteristics that we find in an effective wellness program, Morgan is going to tee up another poll for us around where you see the most opportunity to strengthen your current well-being program.
All right, and that poll is live. So the question is, where do you see the most opportunity to strengthen your current well-being program? It might be around organizational support. It might be around how you communicate and promote the program itself. It might be around kind of balancing the incentives that you offer, focusing on metrics, or it might not be relevant yet. As we heard, a lot of you are still working on launching your first program, so you can select the bottom one. As we're seeing on screen, or as I will share shortly, it looks like in the lead is really around a balanced strategy for your incentives. So really understanding which incentives are going to move the needle and be the most valuable, followed by communication and promotion. So we'll give a little bit more time for people to vote, just 1 or 2 more seconds, and then I will share the results with you. All right. So we're going to close the poll. The biggest group is about people who are actually new. They're still they're planning, so it wasn't quite relevant yet for them, followed by a balanced strategy around your incentives. All
Great.
Right.
I love that. And I know a lot of you likely are doing grassroots, initiatives within your organization. And so this is the perfect time to, to start thinking about some of these things that we'll dive into right now. So that's great. Cool. So again, I'm really looking forward to hearing from Amanda and Debbie and their perspective on the work that they're doing within their organizations. But before we do that, I'm going to share 4 characteristics that we find make an effective well-being program. This is on the client experience team. This is also one of the most common questions that our account managers get from our customers as well. And we have found that there are 4 key components to an effective well-being program: organizational support, strong communications and marketing, a metrics-driven strategy, and the right type of incentives. First, organizational support speaks to the structure that supports engagement and dissemination. Bottom line, it's super important that your well-being program doesn't operate in a vacuum. Having committed and aligned leadership to support your well-being program is a key to success at both the operational and at the cultural level. So first, at more of the operational level, it's critical that business leaders understand the strategic importance of your well-being initiatives. If those initiatives can be tied back to the mission or vision of the company, it's more likely to be regarded and supported as a top priority. We will discuss a couple recommendations around driving strategy alignment here in a little bit. Next, vocal and authentic support from leadership communicates the importance of well-being to the business and sets the stage by example for a culture of well-being. This can be exhibited through communications, recognition, and role modeling. And while this top executive sponsorship is key, it's also important that the priority of well-being funnels down into your managers and supervisors. And what we find is that it's important that these are trusted managers and supervisors. Managers and supervisors are accountable for fostering well-being within their teams, and in practice can be more accessible and tangible for employees and their team's environment in their day-to-day. As many of you on the webinar know here today, organizational support also includes overall personnel time allocated to your well-being program, typically through HR or benefits or well-being teams. And as you know, maintaining and growing a well-being program does not happen automatically, and the engagement and dedication of your team who runs the program is an important piece of the engine. And lastly, when we think about organizational support, grassroots leadership through well-being ambassadors. Who are ambassadors? Ambassadors are individuals within an organization who act as champions and help build the culture of well-being throughout your organization. Ambassadors spread communications in a relatable and a personable way. They keep a good pulse on maintaining a supportive environment, and they lead initiatives pertinent to their own location or team or department. And importantly, they also are a great tie back to you to provide valuable feedback about the Wellbeing program and ways to make it more impactful. Secondly, and these are in no particular order. Secondly, communications and marketing. So as with any corporate initiative, communications and marketing are a foundational element to success. We look at it in terms of the frequency and then also the quality. So the frequency of communications drives awareness. While we all know that email can be perhaps the easiest or most accessible and does reach a large portion of your population most likely, we always recommend pursuing multiple modalities. Other avenues to consider would be brochures, flyers, posters, open enrollment materials, employee meetings, or mobile push notifications in the day of mobile. We've even had customers elect to utilize custom campaigns through videos and social media. When you think about the right avenues to communicate, this is also a really good opportunity to partner with your ambassadors to understand how employees of different departments and teams are best communicated to. And then in addition to the frequency, if you're communicating all the time, but the quality isn't great, the impact is not going to be there. And so the importance of quality of your content really can't be understated. Our point of view is to keep it simple, importantly, to make it personal via testimonials and statements that resonate, and be clear about the call to action. Also, take time to understand who your audience is and what will speak to them. So instead of telling the employee what to do, consider framing it in a way of why they may want to do that given call to action, why they might want to engage. And using web and mobile technology to personalize and target can make this even more possible. Next up here, I know we're catching up with the slides, so we're halfway there. It's incentives. Bottom line, the intention of incentives is to drive motivation. But the question that we ask is, what type of motivation is your incentive design and is your program driving? At ADURO, we categorize this in two different ways. Extrinsic motivation is something done for the sake of an external outcome, such as promotions or bonuses or benefits. They are used to grab attention or for motivation to do activities that may not inherently be enjoyable. And while extrinsic incentives such as premium reductions and gift cards, that type of thing can grab attention and drive initial engagement, they are not enough for true sustained behavior change. And that's where intrinsic motivation comes in. Intrinsic motivation is when somebody performs an action or behavior because there is inherent enjoyment, curiosity, or passion within the activity itself. It's at the core of sustained behavior change. Intrinsic motivation is derived from personal values and really reflect how you want to live your life. And so this is why it's super important for your programs to be designed to offer opportunities to tap into each individual's intrinsic why. And some incentives can strike a happy medium. Some examples would be an adventure or an experience that, yes, it has monetary value, but it also allows you time to connect with your spouse or with your partner. We see clients doing things like wellness days off, which also allow the person with time to practice self-care and seek serenity. Or something like, even in the physical realm, a personal training session, which can provide you with the support to get healthier and achieve something that you've been working towards, which is being active with your grandchildren. I know Morgan's going to dive into some of that after this. And lastly, certainly not least, is alignment of strategy. As I briefly discussed earlier when we were talking about organizational support, it is important that your leaders understand the strategic importance of your well-being program. If a strong connection is made, the wellness initiative can be tied back to the vision or mission of the company as a top priority. And in my role as a leader on the ADURO's client experience team, I every day have the privilege to work with our team of account managers and account associates. And one of their primary focuses is helping our clients identify their organization-specific well-being objectives and key results. From there, then we can make recommendations and drive strategy that roll up into these OKRs, objectives and key results. So objectives, simply put, is to identify what should be achieved. And then the key results is how you measure how we can get to the objective. And what we find, and what our clients find as well, is that spending time up front to define these objectives and key results helps with focus, importantly, because we know that we can do a lot, but it helps with focus and it helps with prioritization. And this ultimately drives executive alignment and support of well-being as a business priority. You know, foundationally, with objectives and key results, when you're creating your strategy, it's important that they are measurable and that progress is evaluated on a consistent basis. We do it at a minimum during, QBRs quarterly and annual strategy. So to sum it up, we have organizational support, a meaningful communications plan, an alignment of strategy, and intrinsically driven balanced incentives are 4 characteristics that we see contribute to an effective wellness program. And before we move on, I'm going to take the lead from our human performance coaches, which I always try to do, and ask you just 3 questions to reflect on. Where do you see opportunity to strengthen any or all of these characteristics? Why are they important? And what is one small step you can take out of today to tackle this opportunity?
All right, and maybe we can actually have Heather add those questions into the chat, just if anybody wants to reflect on those or share any of your own perspective, just as we're moving on. Carolyn, did you have anything else to add to that piece?
No, that's it. I think we, correct me if I'm wrong, Morgan, but I believe we have some time for Q&A.
Yeah, I'm gonna cover one quick slide and then we'll jump into it. So
Great.
Perfect. I wanted just to quickly piggyback off of what Carolyn mentioned around motivation and do a quick overview, dig a little bit deeper around her kind of recommendation to have well-balanced incentives, some that are gonna be intrinsically and extrinsically motivating. And it's a great opportunity to share a little bit more about the work that we're doing here at Blueboard. So why might you want to consider experiences specifically as a motivator for those who are achieving their wellness goals, trying something for the first time, really striving to live that healthy lifestyle? And what could that actually look like at the end of the day with regards to someone going out and about with Blueboard? So when we think about extrinsic motivation, it's really all about how do we inspire those who are new to wellness, who might need a little bit of a carrot to get started. For those who maybe have never really focused on health or wellness, are a little bit intimidated, it's nice to put goals out in front of someone, or whether that's through systems that capture points or help you really measure your progress, count your steps, things like that. There's a wide variety of partners that you can consider for that. But ultimately, when they hit those goals, how can they be rewarded? We also want to be able to celebrate people who do achieve their milestones. And unlike some initiatives where you might give someone cash or gift cards, like Carolyn mentioned, those don't really have longevity, and it's not an ability to share out what people are doing with those rewards after they receive them. I'm not sure how often you've ever done this as a manager, but probably pretty unlikely that you're going to ask someone how they spent their cash reward. But if someone elected to maybe try an aerial yoga class, you might have some really cool photos or videos or stories to share from that. So really thinking about incentives that have that scalability and socialization that's comfortable and exciting to talk about. So that kind of leads into that last bullet of thinking about incentives that provide you some collateral. As Carolyn mentioned, communication and branding is huge for building adoption It's really important to show that this program exists, that people are being rewarded, and that there's a real kind of opportunity at the end of the tunnel as they're making progress. And what we love about Blueboard is that people love sharing. We have a photo contest as well. So some of the photos on screen are families and recipients who are participating in wellness programs that we incentivize. And they're also doing really cool, healthy things. They're trying cooking classes, they're going whale watching, they're getting tickets to a Broadway show. Those are all great memories that you can share to continue building motivation at scale across the company. So when we think about intrinsic motivation, something that's truly going to make someone happy and ultimately lead to long-term behavior change, what's great about experiences is that they really give you that opportunity to do something new, to challenge your comfort zones, to relax and unwind, or what a lot of us really need when we think about wellness is related to stress and burnout. And you might just need to reconnect with family, do something fun for yourself, and really have that time off to enjoy and reconnect. So experiences are great for that, bringing the family together, building memories. And lastly, what about when people actually do discover something new that they're passionate about? Maybe the couple who's taking the cooking class in the top corner falls in love with Thai cooking, and that becomes part of their like monthly routine or a date night together. So something that's going to offer extended happiness beyond that otherwise monetary reward or tactic. So really cool things to think about when you're evaluating the benefits that you offer. On screen, you'll see 2 ratings. We do offer post-experience surveys, which are awesome and a really great way to capture sentiment around how your program's delivering. And I know we have some questions coming in about measuring the ROI of your programs. 2 questions that I thought were interesting to call out. We got a 5 out of 5 star score when people were asked if they believe that Blueboard wellness incentives really help achieve their goals and build company culture. And then 4.8 out of 5 stars on if they feel that Blueboard rewards are a great way to motivate them towards continuing their wellness goals. So really exciting stuff. If you want to reconnect with Blueboard, there'll be opportunities at the end, but wanted to share that just to elaborate on Carolyn's note. So from that, we're going to jump into a brief Q&A. We have a few questions, like I mentioned, that came in from our questions received during the sign-on process. And I'll let Carolyn start with this first one. The question came in from Felicia, if she's on the line. Hi, Felicia, thanks for sharing your question. And the question is really about how do I get buy-in from the C-suite as well as middle management? Her CEO is a little bit resistant to implementing employee wellness programs, and she's looking for the best way to handle or maybe to summarize the benefits to her leadership team.
Great. Hi, Felicia, out in internet world. Thanks for the question. That's as I think we touched a little bit on that on organizational support. A key to when you're getting the buy-in from your CEO is, engage him or her in the creation of your objectives and key results as you're really setting the stage for your well-being program strategy. If from kind of upfront, if you can do that, and also understand what's important for you to be able to report back with him or her on, that's a great way to set the stage as a business priority. Understand what's important to them from the business standpoint, and then for you to also, be clear about how you can close that feedback loop and bring kind of information and updates back to them throughout the way. And when I think you mentioned managers and supervisors as well. This is huge because the reality is that oftentimes for employees, the managers and supervisors are who they're seeing every day, right? So they might be more relatable. They likely actually know them personally. And so again, from the manager and supervisor, setting the accountability to make well-being a priority does come from the top down. So it's important that it does trickle down from the executives. And how we found has worked well to do that is to provide some type of reporting to managers and supervisors. We've actually found it to be really effective to share it openly. So let's say you have your department leads. Every department lead can see where their team stands in key engagement areas. And it's a little bit of friendly competition can come in. Hey, if my team's really high or a bit lower, it's driven some good behavior and conversation there.
Yeah, I wanted to just contribute to, it's really great to have leadership buy-in from the top. And I believe Debbie's actually going to speak to this more in her section because her leaders were passionate about wellness. Little things even that help and go a long way is at Blueboard is one thing around financial wellness. One of our co-founders actually really spearheaded and led bringing in an expert to really break down our new 401k offerings, help people with some one-to-one coaching sessions, for example, around their own wellness, especially given our employee population skews younger and a lot of people are investing in their own financial security for the first time. Also small things, I teach yoga actually at Blueboard, and what I love is that our CEO is actually super into taking yoga with us, and it makes such an impression when he closes his day at 5:30 to take that break, and it really kind of rallies people to kind of come along with that. And I think alternatively, if he was like, forget about yoga, I've got to work and be heads down, it would send a signal to the company. So we'll talk about it more as Amanda and Debbie go through their sections, but leadership buy-in and adoption, not just getting the budget, but also living and breathing the programs and being visible to those who are doing the programs as well is going to really help you break down those barriers and get them excited about participating as well.
Yeah, that's a great point, Morgan. I'll just add one more thing is, you know, when you're thinking about your executive sponsor or who's going to be that executive face, that's also a reason why it's important to remember that well-being is not just health and fitness. You know, that executive sponsor doesn't need to be an Ironman running marathons every year. It can be somebody who is really family focused and, you know, has that kind of growth and development a priority, or really believes in, is passionate. Our CEO is very passionate about our employees, you know, saving for retirement. And so tapping into what part of well-being somebody might be authentically passionate about and already living in their life can help engage them in that personal level as well.
Great. Awesome. So just another question that came in, this is from Matthew, who's with Groden Financial. He's asking a really important question because it's one thing to launch a program and have a ton of excitement and build around it, but how do you actually sustain the excitement? Whether that's really supporting feelings of entitlement, like, okay, we've had this program for an hour now I'm just expecting it, as well as getting people excited to continue achieving new goals, try new things. Any thoughts on that, Carolyn, you want to speak to?
Yeah, that's a great question. And that's also something that we talk to our clients about a lot. You know, when you look at your engagement trends, if you're seeing peaks and valleys or maybe a peak around a deadline or a peak around a certain incentive, that's a cue that there's not, you know, there's opportunity within the program for more of that sustained excitement and sustained engagement. And so I guess, you know, a few things that come to mind are what we talked about. One is around communications. What we find really helpful is to have a communications plan outlined for the year. So we have quarterly campaigns that are fueled or focused around topics that we know through, you know, learning what people engage in are important to the population. So things like mindfulness, financial well-being, sleep. And so, like, first of all, just having that plan so that your communications are locked in and you're sure that they're going to happen at a right level of frequency. And then when you have kind of those themes outlined, you can also think about on-site. How are we having on-site events that roll up into that topic? How can we have maybe an executive sponsored activity of some sort that ties into that topic as well? And so a bit of cohesion and consistency in terms of the communications plan that is also tied into what you know about your population through reporting and data or through your ambassadors is one way that we find effective to keep things exciting and keep that kind of sustained engagement. I would also say that, you know, while quarterly themes are good to have, it's also another reason to offer people the opportunity to find their own personal goal. That's going to be different for me. It's going to be different for you. But if I am committed to a goal and I see the value in that and it's personal to me, that's where and it's intrinsically meaningful, that's where we're going to see sustained engagement. And then lastly, fundamentally, you know, we see a lot, and are there any barriers to entry at a really fundamental level? So do you have employees that have questions around the confidentiality of the program, or that can be a barrier for anybody to engage in your program. Is there something even environmentally that might be getting in the way of them participating, like if they're on a shift schedule or anything like that? So that's another good way to partner with your ambassadors to just get a pulse for if there's any, barriers to entry that can be addressed through things like communications as well.
Great. Debbie or Amanda, did you guys want to chime in with anything you found that's helped support long-term engagement? Or if not, we can jump into Amanda's section.
Yeah, I'll add one thing. Since we're only a month into the program, I have thought about the future, and something that I want to bring in are little competitions. We have a pretty competitive group, so just thinking into the future of how to re-engage, I love the idea of doing, a step tracker or just throwing in any kind of competition.
Wonderful. Great. Well, on that note, Amanda, we'll keep you on. I'm going to pass the torch over to her. She's going to walk through some of the great programs they've started piloting at Blend. So Amanda, feel free to take it away.
Cool. Thank you. And thank you, Carolyn. I already learned so much of how to improve our program. As Morgan mentioned, I'm Amanda, and I do employee experience here at Blend, and I'm excited to share more about the program. It's a new program, so I'm still learning and figuring out what works best and what we need to improve on. Sending out a survey actually next week to get even more details that if we ever have another webinar to follow up, I could share that. Blend is a fintech company, and we're transforming the consumer lending space and that ecosystem. And like most startups around the Bay Area and just around the States, it's stressful. We are working really long hours. We are putting in so much work and effort, and we realized with that stress has to come a wellness program that can help people manage that and really, really take care of themselves. I've always had a personal passion for wellness, for my wellness. I grew up dancing, and the well-being of really everyone around me. It's kind of how I fell into employee experience and why I care so deeply about people's happiness when they come into the office every day. So rolling out this program has been a true dream come true for me, and I'm excited that it's even more robust to when I started. And it's really, I think it's funny because in high school, I actually won biggest stress case for a superlative. And I thought I'd win best smile, best laugh, but I got biggest stress case. And I, in that moment, realized that stress can truly kill you. And I promised myself that I would never stress out again. And of course, stress comes, and for me, it manifests itself physically, which is pretty terrifying. But I made a promise to myself that I would really try to keep my stress level down. So at Blend, about a year and a half ago when I started a very small wellness program because I wanted to teach yoga. So I trained in teaching yoga about 3 years ago, and I came into Blend and just offered a class every Tuesday at 5:30. I've had my regular, about 8 people come. We have about 300 people in San Francisco, but I had my regulars come, and it was a nice start to just sharing some sort of wellness at Blend. But it wasn't until about 2 months ago or so, or 3 months ago, the end of Q4, that we really dove into our engagement survey data and our pulse survey. So we rolled out, or we do a pulse survey. It's a bi-weekly survey through Office Vibe. And what we learned is, and I think it's kind of terrifying, is that our wellness score was the lowest. It remained the lowest for a full year, and it was about 6.5 out of 10. And the score remained so low because of the stress levels. The other part of the score is personal health, which seemed to be pretty okay. It was in the 7 range, but the stress level was not good. So as we looked at that, the head of people and I and my manager, we started talking, and we came to this conclusion that we have a really young workforce at Blend, and they may not know how to take care of themselves and manage their stress, and that in the end decreases productivity. So therefore, Blend, we believe, has a role to play in improving employee wellness in order to increase productivity and output. And while I truly care, and I hope everyone cares about every employee on a human level, we wanted to link it to a business goal and really connect it to productivity, and realizing that productivity suffers when people are less happy and stressed out. we're going to continue measuring that sentiment in our engagement survey. And the survey, we have an annual engagement survey, and then we're rolling out a new pulse survey, and we're keeping that question in, as you can see in the slide, just I feel Blend takes action to promote employee wellness. There's about 2 other questions that will help us see if that score goes above a 6.5 and really see how the program is panning out. So then after that, I put together a deck with the help of our head of people, Matt Morgan, and we pitched it to our CFO. And luckily, as we were just talking about buy-in, luckily our CFO is a mountain biker or road biker, and he cares a lot about employee wellness. So it was an easy pitch. I felt very lucky that he also cared that we roll out this kind of program. And what we presented to him is what I'll go through in a little bit. And he gave us 3 months of funding. He approved 3 months of a beta test, which was really exciting. So if we hop over to the next slide. The last slide, there you go. Cool. So what we realized is that wellness, and like Carolyn said, it's not just meditation, it's not just yoga, it's not just the physical element. We realized that wellness is made up of 3 different categories, and 2 of them we were already doing, and we have a really robust both benefits program and org effectiveness training program. So on the benefits and perks side, we have great health insurance. We have a wellness stipend for $50 for every employee. We just rolled out ClassPass, and we have KIP, which gives you easy access to therapy. So we are touching that mental health space. And then on the org effectiveness, learning and development side, we try to do training on giving and receiving feedback, creating this healthy conflict culture, and training managers to create a psychologically safe environment and really be inclusive of all employees. So those 2 sides are in the wellness space as well. And then what I've really focused on is the physical, the mental, and the environmental wellness. And that is what the new program entails. So I think one of the most popular is the monthly massages. So I'll just talk through everything we've rolled out. We rolled out monthly massages the first Thursday of every month, and we're doing this in all 3 offices. And that's the only thing that we're doing outside of San Francisco for everyone. And then at HQ in San Francisco, we do a yoga class on both Tuesday and Thursday that I teach, which is really fun. Tuesday is at night, Thursdays in the morning. Boot camp, we alternated between morning and afternoon classes. And we're trying all these times because we want to be really inclusive. I want to take into consideration the parents who have to go home early, or the sales team who comes in early and may want to work out in the morning. A little teaser though, we've learned that the afternoon classes are the most popular, and we may not go forward with any more morning classes. And then my favorite is the meditation program that we rolled out. It's every Thursday, and it's through Journey Meditation. And it's a 13-week program to start, where they do a deep dive into, different categories, stress, mindfulness, teaching you what meditation actually is. And then you practice for about 15 minutes. We also rolled out a health shelf in our snack area just to see if people like that, and curate a healthy snack option for everyone. And then we're going to do quarterly workshops on sleep. Sleep was a big thing that I learned when I did this listening tour, just to understand what people thought about wellness at the office. Training on sleep, ergonomics, nutrition, strategic snacking. And then I'd say the most popular, when I look at all the numbers of signups, the most popular is the meditation and the boot camp. So I didn't think that people cared about meditation, and that was just an assumption I made, but seeing the numbers, 30 people sign up immediately when I send out the sign up has been really exciting for me. And then the way we marketed this program is in a few ways. We have different ways to communicate, and everyone hears information very differently here. So we have internal monitors around the office where you could see the schedule. I've been adding classes to people's calendars. Actually, it's a little time consuming, but as we roll out this program, I want to make sure we do have high attendance. So I've been adding to everyone's calendars. And then we also have an event calendar on Google where you could see every wellness program, and trying to just spread the word. And to add on to the question someone asked for Carolyn about leadership buy-in, I actually took the next step and just Slacked about 5 execs who I knew cared personally about wellness. And I said, hey, this is our new program. We launched it today. It would mean so much to me and the company if you showed up to one of these. And we had a few execs come to meditation and yoga, which was really exciting. So I'm tracking numbers through our sign-up sheet, and I'd say about 30 people are signing up for meditation out of 300, about 15 to 20 for boot camp, and then yoga is around 8. And I'd say on a personal level, I think yoga is a little harder to enter because some people have really never practiced yoga. So I'm also rolling out beginner workshops just to have that barrier to entry be a little easier. And then my next steps are figuring out how do we roll this out to New York, Calabasas office, and remote. You know, remote employees often don't receive the same perks, obviously, as we do at HQ. So what kind of program, in addition to that $50 wellness stipend, can we provide to them? And then to measure success, again, we'll just continue tracking numbers. And at the end of this beta test, I'm planning on going back to our CFO Mark with numbers and survey results, and hopefully getting funding for an even bigger program in Q2 that will span across all of our offices.
Very cool. Amanda, thank you so much. We're going to do a really quick roundtable. We got a great question that came through that I know Amanda will be a pro at leading, but our other panelists are welcome to jump in. Really thinking about the fact that Amanda just rolled out a pilot, and it is sometimes hard to get budget approval. What are some ways that are a little bit more cost effective for implementing some of the programs you've mentioned, whether it's meditation or others, without potentially having someone internally like yourself who can run them? Any ideas on how to kind of inspire grassroots support or tapping into the resources in your community?
Yeah, it's in the Bay Area at least, and I'm sure a bunch of other cities, we're lucky that we have people out there who want to share their knowledge and share their practice for free just to start branding. That's kind of what I do, and I know Morgan does at Blueboard. We teach yoga, and it's, you know, I do it because it's a joy to me and it helps me practice. So we actually, for a lot of the workshops before we launched this program, we received for free because we use this Company Theory Foods that rolls out or brings us our healthy salad option, our salad bar option at lunch, to give more detail. And they work with wellness people around town who can come in and do workshops. So we had one on nutrition from a chiropractor who also teaches at Equinox. She came in and about 30 people came. We offered a healthy lunch, and that was a free workshop. In regards to meditation and other things, I think it's important to find those culture champions and cheerleaders around the office, because there are a lot of people who care about these types of programs and want to either teach something on their own that they know, or, you know, set a time to go in and download the Calm app and meditate for free. So Calm is a great app for meditation. Headspace, I know, offers corporate memberships as well. And just putting a time on the calendar, I know it's a lot of weight on the person planning, but to find those champions around the office is a really good way.
Very cool. Thank you so much. So we have a little bit of time left. I definitely want to give Debbie the next 5 to walk through her programs. So we'll pass it over to Debbie. She is going to take us through some of the goals and background for their programs at Motion Picture Television Fund, and talk at a high level about their more successful programs. So Debbie, welcome, and feel free to take it away.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm in Los Angeles, about 20 miles away from the city, at a nonprofit called Motion Picture and Television Fund that supports people in the television and film industry that have been working in either in the TV or film capacity or working in the studio. And we help them with social services, financial health, and also senior living. So we actually have a campus that houses 200 residents that work in the film and entertainment industry. But just a little bit about me and my background. This is the smallest organization I worked for. It's a nonprofit with about 450 people. I've also worked for the large studios like Fox and NBC Universal, and also pharmaceutical like Pfizer and Citibank. I've also been on the vendor side working for health and fitness and Plus One. So I do have a wide range of experience, so your questions don't have to be limited to what I'm going to talk about here. Although I love the environment here because it is very supported from the top, and that is something that is we talked about already. But yes, definitely get your stakeholders. And in our organization, it just so happens that the CFO is a yoga teacher. So that does help. And most of our leadership are very involved in their own health and wellness. So we do have the support from the top down, speaking sort of financially, because the budget is pretty generous, and also philosophically. So like Carolyn had mentioned, having support and having the leaders walk the walk and talk the talk, particularly the managers and the immediate supervisors, is really, really important. And then staying competitive in the market is a reason that employers are offering wellness programs, because 84% of companies have some sort of wellness program. And this can be, as we discussed, a grassroots effort, or you can hire a full-scale vendor, depending on the size of your company and depending on the size of your budget. So our program here at MPTF is not directly tied to benefits, although I have worked in organizations where there are benefits incentives, but our goal is to really get employees engaged, and we have a lot of employees who are working as housekeepers, and they work as kitchen staff, and lots of nurses, and we want to help them live as healthy a lifestyle as they want, but on their terms. So their hours are hard, they work very hard, they're not at desks, so we discovered that an online option, we tried it for 3 years, and it wasn't the best, so now we're more into high-touch programs. So we can turn the page, because I want to get through this quickly. So our high-touch programs are listed here. Next slide, please. And so we have our workshops that we provide for the CNAs, the nurses. They can get credit for participating in any of our workshops, so that is incentive enough. We talked about incentives. Incentives do work, but as we said, they're short term. So if you offer things that tie into the built environment and you focus on things that are already existing, these nurses need their credit, so they will participate in a wellness program if they're going to get a credit, and at the same time they learn. When you talk about tapping into internal resources, yes, there are people that are your ambassadors, that are your champions, and they may even want to go get trained in yoga. We have a subsidy program where we actually subsidize our employees to go and get yoga training, meditation training, urban Zen training, so they can bring it back to the organization. And we also, I have partnered with the nurses here on site. We're lucky to have RNs here where I can partner with, and we created our own curriculum for a diabetes prevention program. It was a 6-week course, and it was a very comprehensive curriculum, and it was accredited. So we get pretty creative on what we do here. And we also partner with Compass, our food service vendor, to make our meal choices healthy, and employees can go and get CSC. We all dressed up as vegetables, and to kick off our healthy menu option in the cafe. So I don't want to take up any more time. I know it's 10:30, so please feel free to ask me any questions. You can also contact me on LinkedIn. I'll help answer any questions that you have. And I would say, good job, everybody. It sounds like this is a group that is just starting their wellness efforts, and every company should have one, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Debbie, thank you so much. I'm sorry we had to kind of fly through that. We do have the SHRM certification code on the screen for those of you who are using that for your professional development credits. It's 19S3EYY, and we're happy to share that with you after if you did attend, if you had to miss this piece. We'd love to have a few more questions. If people have a few more minutes, you're welcome to stay if you'd like. But we did have some good questions come through the Q&A. Some to kind of think about. This one came in from Sarah at Immunogen, and this is open to any panelists who might want to jump in. But how do you really encourage your employees to take advantage of wellness programs during really busy and stressful times? Amanda, I know that you talked about really your program was born from high stress and really seeing that. How do you kind of make sure that people are actually making the time and showing that even though it might be cutting out a little bit early to jump into that boot camp class, for example? How are you kind of reminding people that it's good to take those moments for self-care and taking a break when it is crazy out there otherwise?
Yeah, I'm not sure we mastered this yet, but I think it goes into that psychological safety piece with manager training. And I'm actually now on the org effectiveness team, which is helpful. So I'm excited to go to the managers and, train them and teach them the importance of wellness. So when their employees feeling stressed, the manager is able to say, hey, go take a break or go for a walk or go take care of yourself or take a personal day and let the employees feel okay. Because I think direct reports sometimes feel stressed out, but they can't take that break. They're scared too. So the psychological safety piece is the most important to me for the next steps.
Wonderful.
I'll jump in here too.
Yeah.
I would encourage you to form a steering committee for a wellness steering committee, and then I would bring in people from marketing, people from food service, HR, finance, and just build as many stakeholders, bring new leaders in from every department, create your wellness committee, meet monthly or quarterly, and that will help a lot too.
Wonderful. We have another question that came in. This may be our last one, but I wanted to answer it because it's really relevant. What kind of considerations do you make when you're thinking about approaching employee wellness for a distributed team? Someone had actually wrote in on the chat earlier, Elizabeth specifically, about her organization has a lot of blue collar workers. I know that Debbie, you mentioned that your team is a little bit spread out as you have people, or even just thinking about the community that you're supporting through your services. And Amanda, you have teams in, I think, 3 or 4 different offices. How do you guys think about distribution, and are there any special concerns or considerations you have when you're thinking also about a workforce that might not be as technologically savvy because they're a non-desk worker?
Yes, this is Debbie. I think you find those challenges in many larger organizations, and I think people get pretty creative with it. But the best thing to do is kind of identify 1 or 2 people at each location to partner with you, and try and find an enthusiast, somebody who's walking the walk and talking the talk as well. And be creative about what you use. So is it online? Is it an app? Can everybody tap into it? What kind of incentives can be brought into it, and so on.
Yeah, I'll just add, since in the beta test we did say it was San Francisco only, but an easy thing company-wide is the $50 wellness stipend. So anyone in any office and remote can use that to how they, see fit. And then different gym memberships around town. Luckily, Zeal is, and I know Blueboard works with them, you can kind of book them anywhere. So that's been an easy thing for us to get those massages around in Calabasas and New York. And maybe we can roll that out to remote employees too, to get it into their houses.
I also love what Carolyn mentioned earlier about it, just not that it has to be paid. It might technically be paid because it's off, but it might even be a half day that you give people to really utilize, leave early if it's possible with their shifts, if they are a non-desk worker, and thinking about using that time to choose something that's really meaningful for them, whether it's like, hey, I just want to go home and relax or read a book or something, or I want to really pair with my team and go and do an activity together, but really giving them the space. And the cool thing is, as people go and do that on their own, regardless of the location, maybe you have a challenge to say, hey, like on this day off, share a photo of what you did if you got out and about and did something healthy. That will help, again, build socialization and build branding and help people get to know each other when they are in different offices. So maybe you're not monetary incentivizing them, but you give them the time and then they report back on what they did, and you can build community around that to help further evangelization, if that makes sense.
I would just add, I think a second part of the question was around more frontline workers who might not be as connected. So what we've found effective, definitely looking at how you're communicating to them, right? The good old-fashioned postcard, or if spouses are involved in the wellness initiative, communicating even through the spouse can be a great way, but also looking at what are their priority initiatives that they're definitely going to show up for. So a really good example is safety. how can we partner with the safety manager to make sure they are aware of the benefits of wellness and how it can tie into their initiatives and vice versa. So that's one thing specifically that we found work well.
Great. Yeah, and someone had just written in about they have a really large restaurant population who's distributed, so that might make sense for them too, Carolyn. Yeah.
Customer service as well. When you think about restaurants, likely customer service is perhaps a business priority as well as safety. So working with the people who are already leading those business imperative initiatives and bringing well-being into that conversation.
Wonderful. I'd love to just wrap us up by asking each of the panelists, because this is a question that came through too, what's the most valuable thing you felt so far from investing in employee wellness? It might be a physical metric, it might be just an anecdotal quote or feedback that you received from a specific employee. Anything you want to share that's really made you feel proud to invest in wellness so far for your own organization? And I might start with Amanda to get us rolling, and then we'll close out.
What's warmed my heart the most are the people in person just coming by and truly thanking me for rolling out this program. Even if they can't participate in every activity, just knowing it exists and knowing it exists for their coworkers makes them so happy. And you can just feel the true gratitude across the board. So I know it's not quantitative, but that qualitative feedback, I hope, will let us, go even bigger with this wellness program.
Great. Carolyn, how about you? Stories you've seen from specific clients you partner with, or even at your own internal company?
Yeah, well, I think, of course, at ADURO, we need to take our own medicine when it comes to wellness and human performance. So what's been really cool has been just learning, if you kind of expand out the question, what do you want to be great at? Learning what people want to be great at and the diversity in each person, even if maybe the result is, physical well-being or stress management, but what is important to that person to get there is always very inspiring and interesting, and helps me also identify those things in myself.
Very cool. And then Debbie, what about you? What's been the most awesome result you've seen or felt since you've been rolling out this program for your own company?
I love to see the employee groups supporting each other. So we've had a tremendous amount of success and success stories with people who have lowered their blood sugar and are doing really good with diabetes prevention and obesity, and they've lost weight, and they support one another in their efforts. So if they can't actually physically go to a wellness program, it's sort of infused into the lifestyle here, and I really love to see everybody collaborating with each other and helping each other in that way.
Wonderful. Well, thank you to everybody who stayed on with us. We still have almost 100 people live, even though we went over. So what a great group. And thank you to all the panelists who joined today. I loved your stories and just energy around wellness. It's such an important thing to invest in today. So thank you, Debbie, Amanda, and Carolyn for joining and sharing your thoughts today. And everyone have a wonderful day. We will see you live next time. Thank you.
Thanks so much.